what's up guys? I'm Peachy and I'm here with my good friends Inks and Corvus to chat about Guild Wars 2. Today we're going to be playing catch-up because it's been 6 weeks since there's been a GuildGab. The last one was Festival. I know, right?
Yeah.
Corvus and Alex were live from Festival. It was kind of a special edition and we kind of left you guys hanging after that, and I do apologize for that. We kind of decided as a group that if there wasn't a ton of stuff to talk about, with me streaming every day, I figured I'd rather play Guild Wars 2 with you guys than have us sit here and talk, like, wonder what to talk about. But it's been 6 weeks, there's been a lot going on. The third wing of the raid just came out on Tuesday, so we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about legendary armor. There was an Italian article that came out that had some very interesting information about the future of Guild Wars 2 coming up this year. And lots of other stuff. I definitely want to talk about the poll that ArenaNet had with the names for Destiny's Edge 2.0. I was surprised that they actually did that.
Yeah.
It made me happy.
Do we know who won?
No, it said at the bottom that we would only find out in season 3. So
yeah, when season 3 comes
well, that makes
out,
sense.
we'll,
that makes sense.
You know,
it'll be a surprise. Like, which one's it gonna be? Yeah.
I just hope that it's part of the story. I hope we like see them naming themselves rather than, oh, we're suddenly this for no reason. You know, like we're suddenly calling ourselves this. Kind of like how when season 2 started, everyone just suddenly knew Mordremoth's name. There was no
that bugged me.
You know, there was no like, hey, this dragon, and let's talk about it. They were like Mordremoth. It was like, where'd you hear that? You know, it's like. So, well, personally, I was really torn between, the choices were, if you guys didn't see, Dragon's Watch, Eternity's Guard, and The Unbroken. Those were the 3, and the community got to vote, and apparently they're gonna, you know, name them whatever the community voted for. I was torn between Dragon's Watch and Eternity's Guard, but I eventually went with Eternity's Guard. That was my choice. I did, yeah.
Well, I thought.
Go ahead, Corvus.
I thought Eternity's Guard just kind of felt like a discount Destiny's Edge, like the something, like the naming format just felt too similar. The Unbroken just was too like edgy and kind of we're cool. We're the Unbroken, like a crap teenage band name. So I went for Dragon's Watch in the end. I didn't really like any of them that much, but I think that one was the most fitting, seeing as we're probably just going to be hunting dragons for the next few years.
To me, Dragon's Watch sounded like a map. Like, let's go to Dragon's Watch.
It does sound like a map.
It's funny you say that, because this poll came out at the same time we had the current events where you escort the guys in, is it Iron Marches? No, Blaze Ridge? Oh. Blaze Ridge Steps. And in Blaze Ridge Steps, there is an area called Dragon Watch.
Oh.
So...
Really?
Yeah. So... Yeah, I don't like that one because it's like a place in the game. So it is a place, sort of.
Fair enough.
They're called Dragon's Watch. It's not the same as Dragon Watch, but close enough. And the Unbreakables or the Unshakables or the Unbelievers, whatever they're called, I don't know. It was like a comic book group.
Yeah.
The whatever. What's gonna happen like when one of them dies and like,
or it does get broken?
We're still not broken, guys. I don't know. And then there's Eternity's Guard, which is kind of cool, but you're guarding Eternity. And...
Well,
I didn't vote.
Destiny's Edge.
You didn't vote.
That's so. You didn't vote at all, really? Okay.
I didn't like the names.
Okay.
So I decided that I'm not gonna pick something that I'm just not happy with.
Right.
So I decided not to vote, and I didn't really make that too public because I didn't want other people to be like, yeah, I hate the names too. I'm not voting either.
Right.
I just was like, forget it. I'm just not gonna vote in it. Other people can vote and decide the name. I don't necessarily love or hate any of them. I don't know. I felt very meh about the whole thing.
Yeah, I don't really like any of the names, and I can't really picture a scene in the story where they're gonna like announce their new name and it's not just gonna seem really, really cheesy.
Right.
But I voted for the one I thought was the kind of least bad. But then there's there's a lot of stuff like that, like Destiny's Edge. Even then, like at first, it took me a while to kind of
Right. Destiny's
get
Edge
used to
isn't
that
like
game.
it takes a while to like get used to it. Like we're used to it now, and it makes sense. Like everybody
Right.
knows who Destiny's Edge is. Though if you read the novel, slight spoilers, I guess.
There's
Destiny's
two different
Edge
games, right?
came
Yeah.
from, it was two separate
Right.
groups. They came together, and one, I don't remember the separate names, but they took like a word from each of the names, put it together,
Right.
and that's how they got Destiny's Edge.
See, that was
Yeah,
cool.
I guess as a fan, and I know some people disagree, but I enjoyed the books for what they were. I wanted this, calling it Destiny's Edge 2.0. I mean, it sounds like software, so that's not going to be a thing. But I wanted something that echoed that. I wanted something with Edge in it, or Destiny in it, or Destiny's Blade instead of Edge, or Destiny's. I don't know. I wanted something that relatable to the original name, and that really wasn't there. And there was also some questions and controversy over who's part of the actual group. So like Ritlock has left the broken Destiny's Edge, and now he's part of the group, which I guess makes sense. Destiny's Child.
Destiny's Child.
And but like Canuck was the big one. People really love Canuck. I totally understand why. There was even there was a panel at MomoCon with Leah Hoyer about how she loves Canuck. So I mean, we're going to see more of Canuck, but the problem is he is still bound to Anise, and because of that, I guess he can't join the group. At least right now, he's not technically part of the group,
Right.
even though he played a big part.
He was such a good
obviously
addition as
Thorn.
well.
So
he was such a cool character.
I mean, I think he will join the group. I think he'll become like a permanent member at some point, probably. But we haven't really seen that part of the story. He's technically still bound to Anise. At the end of Heart of Thorns, he says, I have to go back and report in to Anise or whatever. Like, paraphrasing, but basically it's what he says.
And
So, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. And Ritlock is an official part of this new group.
Right?
He didn't just go along for the ride and, help guide them and help them. Like, they listed the members, Marjorie, Casimir, Timey, Bram, Rox, and Ritlock is an official part of this group.
Rest in peace, Logan, Zoja.
Which is interesting because we don't know what happens to Logan or Zoja.
Yeah.
Um,
They promised us there was a blog post with their guideline for like the rest of the year. They told us that they were going to be revisiting these storylines. They said, we're going to go back to the Pale Tree. We're going to, find out what happened to Ritlock and Zoja. At least they asked those questions. They're like, there's all these questions. What happened to Ritlock and Zoja? What happened to the Pale Tree? What's going to happen to Kaith? And she wasn't listed. You notice Kaith wasn't listed in the new group.
Right. So Kaith is interesting because she's now this outsider. Your character, your NPC, hasn't really forgiven her. Right, you kind of say to her like, even as a Sylvari, so she's probably going to go back to playing this outside loner role.
Yeah,
she'll probably show up from time to time. Who knows, right? But so Era's dead, obviously. Garm, who knows?
Right.
Logan and Zoja, question mark. Kaith is now sort of an outsider, a loner, so to speak. And Ritlock is now part of the group, and Snaff has been dead since forever. So, yeah.
Oh.
Well, I think it's gonna. I was really surprised in Heart of Thorns how harsh my character was towards Kaith. Like I thought, it would be kind of that. Oh yeah, it's okay, we forgive you. That kind of typical Disney style.
No, our
story.
character forgives.
But it
no
Our
was-
character was harsh. I thought they
was
were
really
very
good.
harsh on Kaith. Like
We still treat
after,
Canuck like dirt.
right? Even after, and like you said, even as a Sylvari player character, because I played it through with the Sylvari, and even she was like, "No, Kaith, I will make one wrong move, and Ritlock has permission to run you through." I'm like, "Jeez!" And that was like in the very last part where, we're going into Mordremoth's mind to defeat him, and she's still like, "I'm watching you. I'm watching you."
Right.
I was like, "Jeez!" Even I was like, "Calm down."
I mean, she just stole an egg. Relax.
And the egg.
No, it's done, Kaith. We're through. I hate you forever. And Canuck, you're a criminal. I'm watching you. I know you helped.
I'm less
trust.
I'm still less trusting of Canuck, to be honest, than Kaith. Because like I can't get past
Really?
that he was introduced as a criminal. Like I just I can't get past that.
Yeah,
It's
fair enough.
been years, but I'm still.
I just think
scarred.
he's too charming. He totally charmed me in Hawthorne, so I love him.
Yeah.
Oh,
I like him.
the
I
stuff
like the
with
character.
Logan and Zoja though, like the choice just didn't. At first, you know, when you're given the option to like, who are you gonna save? I was like, oh my god. But then it's basically just well, they're both kind of sick, and then playing it again, and you could choose the other option. It's basically the same thing, just mirrored. I got to the conclusion that this choice isn't really gonna matter in the grand scheme of things. Like they're not gonna choose one to die or be really sick or anything because you might have chosen the other one, right?
Right.
So I'm not too sure. Maybe it's just gonna be an excuse to not have them run along with us in season 3. I mean, they're the two probably the most highest paid voice actors in the game, you know, for those two characters. So
I mean,
I wonder if they have the stats of who the player base, what percentage picked Zoja, what percentage picked to save Logan.
Oh, I'm sure they do. I think what's probably going to happen is they'll both be, their wounds will be too grievous to actively engage in combat for the continuing future. So they'll play some kind of homebound role where they're not part of the group, so they're not really part of the living story necessarily. They might make a cameo now and again, but they're really not active anymore. Logan can retire and be guard captain and hold a superficial role, and Zoja can sit in Radasum and maybe she'll become a counselor or something.
Yeah.
Or, you know, semi-retire.
That's what I would guess would happen. They kind of take like backseat roles, but they're still involved. You know, Logan can still be very close to Jenna, and if anything happens there, we know that there's been all this unrest in Kryta about the bandits and the ley lines and creatures showing up, all these little events, which is so cool, by the way. Which is so cool. I mean, I actually haven't done all the events, but like every week it was like something else, and this hinting up to the living story is something that I've always loved. I've always loved it.
It felt a bit more like season 1, kind of. You know, like you get a tiny little line in the patch notes, and you have to kind of find out what's been updated and that kind of hype.
More frequent, but a lot like Living World 1, Living Story 1, whatever. The current events are a lot like that. You know, they're short. They're not necessarily big and in depth. They're very breadcrumby, but you know, they happen like every 2 weeks. You get another little piece, which is much better paced than Living Story 1, where we had like several weeks of fixing signs and without really many updates, right? And then we had a couple weeks of destroying those Sonic, whatever they were.
Scarlet
right?
Sonic things.
So yeah, and actually they've been kind of interesting because the White Mantle tie-ins, the bandits, the bosses actually had some of them to fight solo are pretty brutal, actually. If there's a large group, then not so much. And now the latest event, if you have that marked bandit thing with you, there's this chance, it's a pretty high chance, to summon an executioner that comes down.
Yeah,
and he scales up. He scales up pretty brutal. He or she scales up pretty brutal. So that's pretty interesting as well. But they all have not necessarily new mechanics, but not mechanics you necessarily see on bosses or event enemies in the open world.
Yeah. And
so that's kind of refreshing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I've only fought one of them, but it had like a bubble around him.
That's the executioner. Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, people can't walk into the bubble basically, so they're stuck outside. And if everyone in the bubble dies, then he like disappears, and it's kind of everyone just wipes.
You can't normally walk, but you can use things that will
like movement skills and
so Revenant Axe 4, for example, will actually plop you inside the bubble. So things like that you know, phase traversal kind of thing will actually allow you to get inside the bubble. You can still damage them from outside the bubble anyway. So the frustrating part is you will scale him up even outside the bubble, and you need to be careful because the group can actually pull him outside the bubble, making it so that people inside the bubble can't actually do very much So the event can be a little frustrating sometimes, but generally speaking, it's pretty fun. And the attacks are brutal. If you get caught off guard because you're not paying attention, you don't dodge.
Mm-hmm. And he stomps you as well if you're down, which is
right.
so cool. He actually stomps you. I like it when they.
And there's a break bar. So if you see the break bar come up, that's the only time you'll see the break bar is when they're stopping you. So the fight mechanics is literally you're waiting for someone in the area to die, so that the executioner will stop that person, and then you can break the bar and stun them and get a damage rotation in there. But yeah.
Does he have a finisher?
Yeah. I think it's just the plain kind of stick in the ground one, like the default one. It would have been cooler. A white mantle finisher.
Ooh.
It does have those attacks from for those who have done the raid, especially the early parts of the raid. It does have that AoE sword attack that comes down and does damage. That's just a normal attack.
Nice. So what about the raids? I know Inks is. Gosh, have you cleared it?
I cleared it. Yeah. So I cleared the raid on. Unfortunately, I cleared the raid on Thursday. Should have been Wednesday. Actually, should have been Tuesday. But Wednesday, with IRL kicked me in the butt. I didn't get to even log in. So we cleared it early Thursday.
Nice.
Or I cleared it early Thursday. Some people in the guild cleared it on Tuesday after a very long play session. But yeah, super fun and exciting. And I know Aurora's done this, but we can talk about the escort, the very first event. People were calling it a boss. I guess it's more of an event, but it does grant a legendary insight when you complete it, as well as some other loot.
Did the bandit event
in
Wing 2 give you a legendary insight?
The
bandit event?
Ooh, yes.
I never paid attention.
I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure.
Wing 3 is supposed to be 2 events and 2 bosses. Not in that order. I think it's event, boss.
Right.
So
after you beat the Keep Construct, it is sort of an event, but you don't get a legendary insight for the maze.
Oh.
So that is more of an event like the Ghost running in Wing 1 or...
Right.
I don't think there's a Wing 2 variant of that, really. But so it's more like the Ghost run from Veil Guardian to Gorseval, how that stuff is. That's like an event, right? You kill some ghosts, and you got to stand in the circles. Then after that, you got to beat the ghost wall to get to Gorseval.
That's true. You don't get a trophy for that. You do get a trophy after the first event.
Right. So the first event is the escort, and there was a lot of people in the groups that said the escort. They love the escort because it really reminds them of Guild Wars 1's some of the missions. It was really reminiscent.
You have to split up into 2 groups to do it.
Right.
And so you have the people on the top helping the people on the bottom. People on the bottom are activating the ley lines so that other people at the top can go to tower to tower. It's really well designed. It was really fun.
And it's interesting because you have an NPC that you have to keep alive. If the NPC dies, everybody fails. And you have a special command to move her around. And the other thing that our group had noted why we were doing it was that the pathing on the AI is unusually very sharp and good for the NPC. Not perfect, but it's way more responsive than some of us may have anticipated it would be. And the bottom path, there's a lot of mines that you have to watch and take care of. And so the trick with the mine is, in order to damage it, you need to stand inside this white circle, which is like a sliver. And if you touch the mine, if the NPC touches the mine, you're instantly dead. So you have to watch out for that. And then as the second group makes its way through this, I don't know what to call it, like a sort of a grotto area with fountains, you've got to go from fountain to fountain and kill the enemies as you go through because there's a poison that ticks on you. And you need to make your way up to the towers, and you need to take over the towers because the group on the bottom can't get through unless you take the towers out. And then you need to ley line glide from tower to tower as the bottom group progresses. So there's 2 groups split up doing different things. Now what's really interesting is the top group in the towers can actually come down and help the bottom group and then they can ley line glide back up to the top and continue progressing that way.
Sounds amazing.
If you want
That
to do that.
sounds so fun.
It's really fun, and I was in the bottom group. I couldn't even imagine how fun it was to like ride the ley lines like around the top the towers. And when we were raiding on Wednesday, I know Bog said it was like riding a roller coaster. He's like, because you were just going up and down and through these ley lines, and you know, and I think it was pretty automatic. I didn't hear anybody like complaining that they were falling
Super
off the ley
smooth.
lines. Everything just works. Everything just works. It's really smooth. Escorting the NPC, you know, it's you're killing tons of mobs, so it reminded me of the bandit event in Raid Wing 2, where there's mobs and mobs and mobs, and you're killing them all. But in Wing 2, we found it kind of boring. Like before we got to each boss, it's just, okay, we're standing around killing mobs. Whereas here, you're escorting the NPC. You know, you can't leave her alone, because if you just like leave her back, a warg will spawn and come and kill her. So you have to like be constantly protecting her. Like someone's on Galena duty. Someone is the one who guides her around, and then you're helping. So you're saying, all right, you've got your next ley line, go. And so everybody goes, and they're like, all right, we shut off the tower, go. And it's just really fun because you're constantly progressing down this path, and the environments are beautiful. They're breathtaking. I mean,
whoever designed the map, it's amazing. The map is freaking incredible. The little details in the map, the maze area is kind of mind-blowing the first time you see it. I don't know the name of the painting, but there's that painting where the stairs are inverted and they go, whatever that painting is called. And that's exactly what the maze is basically, with this giant ominous tower thing in the center. We'll get to the maze in a second, but the beginning thing is cool, and everybody has control over the NPC. So you have to be careful not to like screw your team by accidentally calling her to a place you don't want her to.
Yeah, we had that.
And when you get to a particular area, too, it starts sending wargs out. And the wargs will basically one-shot her. They'll kill her very quickly. So you have to deal with the wargs as well while you're going forward. And when you get to the end of this, then there's like a little mini-boss that you have to fight. He's not overly difficult or anything like that, but it starts to teach you this, we call it a clown mechanic. He starts to teach you this mechanic where you get a symbol over, this horn symbol over your head, and it's either red or white. And the boss itself will get a symbol over its head, so that only those who have the correct symbol can actually damage him in that phase. And the theme of this raid is mesmers. So he creates clones and stuff, and you got to kill the clones, and and wargs continue to come while you're doing the fight. And I don't know whether the wargs can kill her at that point because her health bar goes away, but we killed him anyway just in case, because I don't know.
Yeah.
He's not too difficult though. He's kind of easy, but still fun fight, super fun event. Really enjoyed that one.
Yeah. We excuse me, we got past that in about an hour. We haven't beaten Keep Construct yet, which is the first full boss, the second encounter, I guess you could say. But that fight seems, it's got a mix of like, I find old mechanics and then brand new mechanics. It's funny because, you know, when you see all the mechanics in Raid 1 and you've never seen some of these mechanics in the game before, and then, you know, Wing 2 and you've never seen some of these mechanics, it's kind of like, I'm like, what's next? You know, what could they possibly come up with? And there's like you said, the splitting the team like red and white, and you can only kill your color. There's like knocking an orb around into basically like playing soccer and knocking this orb around into rifts. There's all kinds of stuff. I mean, both elements from the first two Raid Wings as well as brand new elements, and it keeps it exciting. It's really exciting.
Yeah, so then you get to before you even get to the Keep Construct, there's a whole bunch of lore. There's a whole bunch of like
lore in this
lore
courtyard.
tidbits.
Oh my gosh!
And
I don't
like
want to ruin
potatoes.
it. I know it was just out today, and I don't want to spoil anything big for anybody. But
like Wood and Potatoes did a video on like this one section of this side, but you get to this courtyard and there's some dialogue there, and there's a bunch of things you can click on and interact with, and really cool. And then you get to this room, which, by the way, in the Keep Construct's the only one that has this. So it feels like ArenaNet's toying with this idea, which I'm all in favor of. But there is a challenge mode for the first real boss to keep construct.
Yeah.
And the challenge mode basically makes the room smaller. That's kind of the challenge. Cool. So he is a pretty interesting boss. He's being controlled by Zira, who is like the final boss. And she sort of brings him alive with the bloodstone magic and energy and such. And he has a bunch of mechanics. So the biggest ones that players are going to have difficulty with are making sure that they control and separate the statues. Gosh, I'm terrible with names. I forget what they're actually called. But what will happen is 2 statues will light up, although we had bad RNG where 1 statue would light up and 2 ghosts come out of the same statue.
Oh, really? Wow.
How
are you supposed to...
They basically kiss and make a baby instantly, let's just say. We had that happen 2 or 3 times. I don't know whether that's a bug or not, or supposed to happen, because that happened on Tuesday, so I don't know if it's been... I don't know whether that's normal or not. But anyway, 2 statues light up, but you don't know exactly who's going to get called out, at least not that I could tell. And 2 people will get called out, and then you have to separate. You can't let the statues' circles touch. If they touch for like any length of times, they will slowly walk towards each other, and then we call it kissing, but they combine into a red one, who you can kill, but is a supreme pain in the butt, and it strips boons from you, and it is kind of a pain in the butt to deal with. And you can kill the boss with a red 1 or 2 active. You just don't want them active early in the fight, and if possible, not active at all.
Right.
But things sort of get hairy a little bit later, and if you're not on top of your game, it's not hard where players don't know who's targeted right away, or you have an issue with it. Also, the pathing is not super responsive. So if you run like right into it, it doesn't necessarily pull back right away. It takes a second or 2 for the thing to adjust. So if you're slow at it, they could combine like that. On top of that, the statues sometimes will change targets. Somebody else might know exactly
oh my God,
what
that happened to me.
Targets.
I was so pissed.
But you might have a target on you, and then suddenly it's either targeting somebody else, or a different one is targeting you, and so that causes a lot of problems. And the statues can target anybody. Doesn't matter like where or who you are in the raid. It's not a proximity thing as far as I can tell, because it usually likes to target people on the opposite side of the rooms, I've noticed. So it's like you need to cross each other's paths. And basically what you want to do is you want to pull one of the statues into him and kill it, and then pull the other statue in and kill it, because it removes this debuff. It removes this buff on him that allows you to do more damage. And that's just one part of the fight, but that's a part that I think a lot of people probably struggle with and mess up a lot.
That was definitely our biggest problem. I could tell that was going to be our biggest challenge, was keeping those spirits apart. But once I mean, we didn't even notice at first that the statues lit up, and so when someone finally said, "Hey guys, you can tell where they're going to spawn," it's like, oh. And then towards the end, I got so pissed because like you said, I had a spirit following me around, and then it switched to the other spirit, and so they're like, Peachy, as the spirit's coming. I'm like, what? I'm standing by my spirit. I had no idea that it switched to the other one. I'm like, what? And I'm standing directly on the wrong one. And they're like, what are you doing? So, yeah, it's a really fun fight. We're doing it, we're attempting it again tonight, and I don't know if we'll beat them tonight. What do you think about the difficulty overall of this raid wing compared to the others?
Yeah, a lot of people have been asking that. Difficulty is a funny thing because I've been seeing a lot of people saying this one's way easier than the other ones. I don't know if that's true. I feel like the difficulty is pretty much on par with the other raids. I mean, you can make an argument that it's easier, but then again, when I look back at Veil Guardian, Gorseval, and Sabbatha, with the exception of Sabbatha, where everybody becomes responsible for their own throwing actions, Wing 1 was very easy. For me to look at it now, it's like, Wing 1 was easy.
Yeah.
But when you're there in the moment learning it for the first time, it's like, wow, what's going on? Like, you know, and then Wing 2, like, I don't know, Slothosaur gave us a little trouble to start with, and then Matthias can sometimes be a pain. The bandit camp is whatever, but you look back in Wing 2, with the exception of, like, Matthias, maybe, who some people will argue, like, Matthias is easy, you know. They'll say that's pretty easy. So I feel like it's on par. I really do feel like it's on par. In 2 weeks or so, when people are, you know, when more people are killing it and downing it and clearing it, I think people will say the same thing, like, Wing 3 is whatever. And they're kind of already saying that because a lot of guilds have cleared it who have, like, put in the time and the dedication already.
Yeah.
But you've also had 2 other raid wings before it to really familiarize yourself with not only mechanics, but tanking, and being self-reliant. Wing 3 has a lot of self-reliant things, a lot like Wing 2, where you're more responsible for... It's not like, okay, this group is responsible for standing in the green circles, and everybody else, whatever. And you know, and you're responsible for dealing with the guys on Gorseable. And then you get to Sabbatha, and it's like, okay, we have people responsible for cannons, but then everybody has to be able to throw. And if you can't throw, you're going to screw us up. Whereas you get to Slothosaur, and it's like, well, we don't know who the tank's going to be, so everybody's going to probably have to take turns tanking, maybe. And then Matthias goes back to this idea of, well, we have reflectors. The reflectors are kind of the key to the fight. But then everybody's responsible for poison or the fountains, etc. And so, you know, going back to the keep construct, Zero, not so much, but the keep construct, going back to that, you know, you get assigned, there's a couple other phases where you get assigned colors. There's what I like to call the Hungry Hippo phase, where these balls, these red and white balls are coming into the boss. And if they hit him, they power him up. So you'll get a color, red or white, and you have to run around eating. You have to Hungry Hippo the balls before they get to them. You have to eat all the balls up. Which I love that phase. I just love yelling out hungry hippos. But
I like it.
But yeah, there's more personal responsibility when it comes to some of those things.
It's that random element. I personally like being prepared before I go in. You know, I like saying you're the tank, you're the sizzle team, you're the green circle team, whatever everybody calls it. You know, everybody's going to these pillars. Like, I like being prepared, and because that's the kind of gamer I've always been. I like turn-based strategy. I like sitting and thinking, you know, about a strategy and then going and doing it. Whereas I think Raid Wing 2, I think it had a little bit it was too heavy on the random side. Like, even if you could have designated one single tank for Slothosaur, I just think it would have been so much better, rather than, okay, you're the random tank for 10 seconds, now you're the random tank for 10 seconds. And I think that they kind of fixed that kind of in Keep Construct, because Keep Construct, you can designate a tank. You can say, okay, this person's the tank, but then there are those other random elements. And I think you need a good mix. I think Raid Wing 2 had a little too much of the random. So I'm glad to see that so far, while Raid Wing 3 definitely has more, it definitely still has the random elements, it's lessened. So everybody still has to be responsible for most of the mechanics, but you feel like you have a little bit of control. And I like that. So I haven't seen past Keep Construct. I saw like 2 seconds of your stream, I think, in the maze part, and then I saw that there was a blog post that just came out on the website today, a bunch of different devs, I think 4 or 5 different devs talking about different aspects of the raid. And
does it say who designed the maze?
I didn't get a chance to read the whole thing.
Okay, all right.
It might be in there, but
it feels very Josh Foreman like.
I don't think his name was in there, but
there's not a whole lot of jumping, but there's this feel of constant punishment while you're in that area. Now, if you do, like, so when we cleared it, we didn't have the new mastery. Having the new mastery sort of helps a lot in quite a few of the areas, and the maze is one of those areas where the mastery will help you quite a bit. Without the mastery, Without the mastery, you're sort of on a timer in the maze. So the maze is a couple of parts, and I won't spoil too much because I know some of you guys haven't done it yet. But there's a couple of things. You're basically put on a timer because you start ticking up these. I forget what it's called, but it's like torment, and when it gets to 100, you're dead. And after a certain period, you do get a symbol of like silver, and then gold, and then blood red, and you know you're close to dying.
That's nice. Rather than having to look at a little tiny thing on your your bar.
And then the other thing is the enemies, the mobs that exist in there. I won't spoil the big one for you. I'm sure some people already know what it is.
I don't know much at all. So.
But there's one big enemy in there that's really kind of fun to deal with. But the little guys in there, the little white mantle guys, they like to fear a lot. So have stability. Because you can't glide in the maze until you clear it. So yeah. Don't be surprised if you're just like, I just got feared. You get feared off the edge and get killed, and it's like...
Hate fear. And apparently Josh Foreman did design the maze. And some other that's what
people worked on it
Chad
as
is
well.
that's what Chad is telling us. And they also told us that from before the statue or the spirits switching focus is actually a bug.
Oh, okay.
They said They said that was confirmed to be a bug. And
there was a funny bug that they fixed now. That we didn't know anything about the bosses, and we're trying to figure out like what does this do, what does that do, how much damage. Everybody gets this AOE on them, kind of like Matthias. You get this AOE and it's like separate.
Yeah.
So at first we were separating, and then people are like, oh well, it doesn't really do much damage. So everybody just stack and dodge. I think you can dodge it. I don't think you can dodge it, by the way. There was a bug where sometimes it did a lot of damage and sometimes it didn't do that much damage. So there was times where we were like, just stack up. It doesn't really do that much damage. And it would go off and it's like, yeah, whatever. And you just keep fighting. And then there were other times it would go off and kill everybody. It's like, what happened? There was a bug on like the damage it was doing or how it was working or something. They fixed that though, so that shouldn't be an issue anymore. But it's funny being in there like not one of the first, there was dozens of teams in there, but being a first group in there where you're not sure whether this is working right or not.
Right. And
it's just like, well, we don't really have to move because this never really does a lot of damage. And there's one time where it works properly and it kills everybody. And you're like, I don't understand. Just separate. Forget it. Just separate, you know.
Those bombs always freak me out because I shouted out loud the first time I saw those because you're used to it in Matthias in the Abomination phase, you know, and you have a very limited amount of time for everybody to spread out. And then this is such a small arena and the bomb circles are so gigantic. You have a lot of time to separate, but I freaked out when I first saw. I was like, those are gigantic bombs. I was like, oh my god, what are we supposed to do? But they give you plenty of time. They're actually like, it's not a problem at all, and they give you like just enough space so you're like standing right between like two other people's circles. It makes it really exciting. Yeah, I like it so far, and I've only seen very small snippets and screenshots of what's coming later on, and it just looks like it's gonna just blow my mind. Like I'm just like, are you serious? Like there was some. By the way, guys, the blog post that they put up today, which had like the 4 or 5 different developers talking, there are spoilery screenshots in there. That's where I saw it. I was scrolling through it real quick, and I like what? I was scrolling through. I was like, what is that? Like it was just so crazy looking. I was like, I cannot wait to get there. So, but about go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna move on, saying about the story in the Raid Wing relating to the upcoming Living World Season 3. Do we have confirmation about how much of that is going to be related to Season 3?
I mean, it's not...
I think all we know is that they were being really careful to not make it story content that would be locked out for a lot of the player base in the raids. So, as far as I can tell, it's basically I think it's probably being used as a kind of crash course in the White Mantle, Mersac kind of lore. Guild Wars 1 stuff, right? So people can kind of get some kind of thing of that. And just probably just being a massive hint towards the White Mantle stuff. I don't think it's like its own story which is going to affect nothing, because obviously we're seeing White Mantle stuff in the open world as well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't expect to go into Season 3 and have them talk about, oh, remember when we killed Matthias? Or, you know, they're not going to treat it as something that every player will have done. So I think it's more just setting a mood or a scene as opposed to actually being connected story-wise.
And without spoiling it, the only thing that concerns me is the very end of the raid, of course, leaves you on a cliffhanger, open-ended sort of question for the character. Right. That sounds like it probably will tie into Living Story Season 3 somehow, unless it's not going to tie in until the next raid, which would kind of seem weird to me. I doubt that. But, you know, when some of these facts become unveiled in Season 3, you don't necessarily need to do the raid to know or understand what's going on, but if you do the raid, I think you'll have a slightly deeper understanding of who the White Mantle are and what they're about. If you haven't ever played Guild Wars 1, like, you would know a little more because of the raid. Yeah. There is one thing at the end, and it's like, this has got to tie into Season 3 somehow, and I don't know, it seems weird that this will eventually get revealed in the story somehow to everybody, and some people are going to be like, what?
I trust that they're going to put some kind of summary of what happened in the raid in Living World Season 3. At least because this is the raid has been such a reintroduction to the White Mantle, who they are, establishing that they're the bad guys. You know, this keep that's up here, you know, why is it here? I can't believe we never knew it was here, you know, and they're doing all this stuff. And I'm very confident that we're going to get some kind of a summary. It's still going to be unfortunate for those who couldn't actually raid, because like we said, I was surprised in just this one courtyard after the first event how much lore was in that one courtyard. It was like, wow. So I think it's a reintroduction of characters. I don't know what happens at the end, but I think that it's going to be, like you said, kind of like bonus, kind of like, you know, a deeper understanding of what's going on. And it's not like we are following Marjorie and Casimir and Rox through the raid wing. Like, they're not involved.
They're not there at all.
They're not involved in it at all. They're not even mentioned. So it is kind of its own standalone story, but at the same time, it is going to tie in. So
yeah, I think it's going to be like a side story that is in the same kind of theme as what they want for Season 3. Is there like a cutscene at the end? Because I know there was one at the end of Wing 2, was it?
Not like Wing 2, no.
Right.
There is this thing. How can I talk about this without spoiling it? So first of all, Zira, the last boss, amazing. Amazing. The whole fight design, the look of the boss itself, oh my god, so good. So freaking good. There's a bit of an RNG element to the fight with gliding that could really screw your party over, and we kept getting it again and again and again, but get good at gliding. I don't know what to tell you.
Thank God they made it client
practice
side.
That gliding. Yeah, practice that gliding.
By the
feels
way,
bad when you're halfway through a fight and someone fails gliding, and it's like, oh, damn it.
It's Corsival all over again.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you so much to Guild Wars 2 for hosting us. Really appreciate it.
Oh.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
But, yeah, so there's a thing at the very end where you're collecting your loot. And there's something in that area that... I tweeted a screenshot out for those who want spoilers. You can go through the Twitter feed. But there's this area where you get your loot after killing the final boss. And you think you would do a particular thing there to unlock a cutscene, a secret raid boss. That would have been really exciting.
Oh, man.
That would have been cool.
We were all on Discord, and we were all super excited. We're like, it's going to unlock a secret boss. Nobody's found it yet. Nobody's found it. And as far as we could tell, like, we tried a billion different combinations and things, and nothing worked. And if this is there, and it actually does nothing, maybe we're just being idiots and can't figure it out. But if this actually does nothing, what a missed opportunity. Because it's perfect. I'm telling you, when you get there and see it, you're going to be like, this has to do something. And it doesn't do anything as far as we can tell, unfortunately. But that got us like, it got us super excited when I'm like, me and Brazil's like,
kids.
I got home like late Wednesday after a horrific day, and Brazil's like, you just want to come into, I'll open the instance for you because they killed it on Tuesday. He's like, so you can just walk around and like read like the last whatever. And I was like, yeah, sure, let me in. And we're in there, and I'm like, what is this over here? And he's like typing in guild chat, we need 8 more people. Get in here right now. We need to test this. And yeah, anyway. Going back to the story, jumping all the way back to the story, and people saying, you know, I know there was this quote where Living Story 3 and the raids aren't necessarily connected or like they're separate entities. And I would have totally, and that was totally true up until we started seeing events about bandits and how bandits are tied to the White Mantle. At least some of them are tied to the White Mantle. So seeing that the bandits and the White Mantle are being mentioned in the open world in these breadcrumb type of events, like you have 2 different events happening. So you have bandit events and you have leyline energy events, which seem like separate things, but maybe they're not exactly.
Who knows?
And then obviously the raid is heavily tied to the White Mantle and bandits and such. Even going from Wing 1 to 2 to now 3, it's all about the White Mantle and reintroducing the White Mantle and who they are. And there's this whole other thing with Zero, which is kind of mind-blowing. But, you know, like I said, I don't think you're going to need to play through the raids or know some of that stuff to enjoy or to understand who the White Mantle are for Living World Season 3. But I would be baffled. I would be completely surprised to see no banditry or White Mantle in Living Story 3.
No, I think it's probably just there as kind of an introduction type thing, and just to kind of set the scene up. And yeah, for those people who have missed, you know, who don't know who they are, it's a good way to introduce that. And I think Season 3 is obviously going to present any kind of story as if it's brand new, regardless of whether you've done the raid or not. I think just to ensure that people who haven't done any raiding still get it, you know, fed to them.
What if Living World, like episode 1 or 2, once we actually start exploring this, what if the episodes actually take place in an empty raid instance? What if Salvation, the entire Forsaken Thicket is where Living World Season 3, takes place? Because we've already cleared, you know, the players have already cleared the raid, so all the lore can be there. We can learn about everything, but they're cleared instances. It's a separate, like, your episode is going into those instances, but no bosses because they've already been cleared.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one angle that could be taken.
It's a good way for them to reuse resources, right, and
I
let
think it would
people
be excellent. I would love to go through those instances with Destiny's Edge 2.0. So then we can get their take on all this stuff.
At the same time, though, like, that might be a little bit sour for some people because it's kind of rubbing it in your face, like, you should have done the raid. But because you're an idiot and didn't, here, we're going to give you easy mode.
But they would be exact same. People who don't raid have been asking for some kind of story mode, and that would be the exact same thing.
Maybe it's just a personal thing. I think I would feel really like bad for not raiding if they gave me that. But I think it's a good way for them to reuse the maps anyway and get more kind of use out of them. And also, I think they're cool settings. I think they're really, really good maps. There's a lot of cool stuff there. And
they're amazing.
If they were to do more deeper story in there, that'd be pretty cool.
And I'm not saying, to respond to the chat, I'm not saying that we won't get a new map. No, we absolutely need to get a brand new map on top of, if that happened, on top of that. We need to get a brand new map for Season 3. Absolutely. 100%.
I think we will.
Yeah.
I think we will.
100%.
If they release the first episode and, you know, it's an hour and a half long and there's no new map.
Well, speaking of the
I don't want to go on Reddit.
Well, speaking of the first episode, there was an Italian interview or article from VMag stating that one episode every 2 to 3 months. But so basically the quarterly updates. Maybe more often than that, because it says 2 to 3 months. Where we'll get an episode, but I think those episodes are going to be bigger than what we saw in season 2.
They will have to be. Can you imagine, like, starting episode 1 and it's like the Kaith going into her memories episode, and it's just kind of
and then you
really
have to wait 2
average
months for
and
another
short,
one.
and then I'll come back and at Christmas or whatever. Nah, they have to be a lot longer. Just and they really need to kick everything off with a bang, I think, as well, to secure people coming back and maintaining that interest in the game.
Yeah.
If it starts kind of slow or anything like that, or maybe the first episode's just like an epilogue to the Heart of Thorns story,
love an
it's not going
epilogue
to
to
go
Heart
down
of
very well.
Thorns.
Oh yeah, like it's part of it. Or maybe like they release that, maybe next week they do that, and then
that's true.
and it's separate or something. That'd be fine. I'd take that, but they really need to kick it off like bam, we're in. There's season 3, guys, and it's amazing. There's like cutscenes and like amazing stuff going on. Really fun new map, and like an amazing boss fight, or some really intense story stuff reveals, or like it needs to start at like a really high, fast-paced kind of high energy stuff, because I think a lot of players are so worn out right now, and if it's and I mean it's been 8 months since Heart of Thorns, and we've had we've had these little updates which are really nice, but I think the nicest part about them is just that it's kind of reminding us that things are coming, as opposed to the actual content. And it's basically been 8 months since we've had story content added to the game, a real PvE content added to the game. So I just obviously raids, but yeah, whatever. So I just they really need to start this off properly and make a really good impression. So a new map is just it's a requirement at this point. Absolutely.
It's interesting because we need an epilogue, and we need another part that kicks off a new story, a new journey, whatever, and that's where the new map needs to kind of come into play. Having an epilogue alone is really not going to be enough.
No.
It was super disappointing to myself to not have the epilogue in Heart of Thorns. There's no real wrap-up. It's kind of like, good job, everybody.
Yeah, you can go back and talk to the NPCs. It's not even voiced. It's just, I don't think it was voiced. But it wasn't really a closing. It was like them saying, all right, we're going to the next dragon. And it wasn't like, it
because we got
complete.
We got one at the end of season 1. Right?
Season 1 wrapped up fantastically.
But we did get an epilogue thing, like a small update that was just, I think it was just in the Dead End Bar, right? And we just spoke to them after the stuff with Scarlet. It was just like a really tiny instance that they added
but
after.
Killing Scarlet and bringing down the Breachmaker was so
epic.
It's
a resolution.
It felt like an ending.
Right.
I remember being disappointed at the ending of season 2 because I didn't know that it was going to directly go into Heart of Thorns. So when it ended, I was like, that's it? I was like, there was no ending.
But that's the thing. I think they're setting up something really similar with this, right? It just stops. We see the cutscene of the magic going to the egg, and then
and then it's like the next day, right? Yeah.
So I think that if they start it, and we're in Divinity's Reach, and we're like, meet your friends in Divinity's Reach, and everyone's talking about, oh, what's this new thing? I'm gonna be raging because, unless it's set like right after where Heart of Thorns ends, I'm gonna be unhappy because we should have had some kind of resolution then. If they start it off and we're still even in Dragon Standstill or something, and it's like, oh, this thing, then that's fine. I can understand why they didn't do an epilogue, because the story was meant to continue immediately after.
We know that can't happen because your character tells everybody to go wherever they're going to go. And in the meantime, these current events are happening now. So these current events are happening. You as a player are participating in them, at least hopefully you're supposed to be. You're participating in them. The raid stuff is technically happening at the same time as all this. And then eventually Living World Season 3 will kick off. We need to know what happens to the Pale Tree. We need to check in with Canuck. We need to check in with all of our teammates. We need to check on the egg. We need to check on Timey. all those things need to happen and
Timey.
have some resolution to them
Yeah.
before we can even start
Yeah.
actually living story 3, right?
Mhm.
And it can't be this nice little everybody meets in the bar and says, "How's it going, Norm?" You know, you can't. That's not going to be enough, right? You need more resolution than just, oh, what happened to Logan and Zojia? Like, there's a lot of loose ends for Heart of Thorn's story, and we know that time has been progressing,
Right.
like as we wait for it. How much time? I don't know, but
Timey
obviously
better found
time.
out all kinds of stuff. I was so disappointed when we just left her at Radanovis. Like, if we go back there and she's like, "Well, I found out nothing."
See, I
I
think
will
she's-
rage quit. Like,
I think she's a really long-term story point, to be honest. I think we're not gonna hear from her for a long time until this key moment, and then she gives us some amazing information that we're gonna use in some big way.
she's.
And even the egg, I think we'll go check on it. The Exalted will be like, yeah, don't worry, it's just, chilling out, and we have to wait for it to hatch. And then, then I think we're gonna go to like Divinity's Reach, and there'll be a lot of stuff with the White Mantle, and suddenly there's all this stuff going on, more human politics, that kind of thing. Logan wants to defend, his people, but he's sick. Oh no. Maybe the Queen will die if we're lucky, and we can get some cool stuff going on with that. I think that's probably I think that's the most likely thing, is the White Mantle side of things. The Leyline Coalescence stuff, I'm not too sure how really. I mean, Dragon Minions are getting more active because there's more food around. That's about it.
Yeah.
We have so many loose ends, and I don't know. But like in my head, I've just been trying to organize which ones we're most likely going to see and which ones are going to be held off as more long-term kind of story stuff.
Should be interesting. So we need all that wrap up, and we need to start new story stuff.
Yeah.
What are the bandits about? What is the Leyline energy about? And how does this tie into probably a new map, right? We'll see. I mean, all that needs to happen in the first, episode, and then we wait 2 to 3 months.
Oh, that's going to be such a long wait.
So
it's going to get everyone so
say-
excited to play, and then it's just, okay.
Yeah.
Let's say it comes out in July, which is what I expect. August at the very worst, and then 3 months after that? So
October again?
November-ish
Yeah.
for the next story, and that's a really bad time of year because then you get
Yeah.
into December and Winter's Day,
Yeah, you don't
and
want to release
then
stuff
we
during
see a
December.
hiatus from the company, and then we don't really start back up till mid-January usually
Yeah.
with Guild Wars 2 stuff. I mean, that's the way it's been in the past. So, which means probably not February.
When is the Queen's Gauntlet rumored to come back? Like, because of that brewery achievement. Hence,
yeah.
it's later this year. I can't remember what month it is.
I'd have to
But
go
say they did.
once.
If they launched the first episode in like July, August time,
I mean-
then we get Halloween, then another episode, then Winter's Day, and then the episode 3 would be in the new year or something.
which is possible to happen. And,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, I like the Queen's Gauntlet. I like Halloween. I love Winter's Day. I like all those events, and those are still going to happen. But, Living Story is kind of the driving force for a lot of players. It's
Yeah.
fun to do Winter's Day. It's fun to do Halloween. If you're a veteran, even with new rewards, it's still fun to go do some of that stuff. But at the same time, unless you really want those rewards, like how much time are you going to dedicate to the winter jumping puzzle or the clock tower or whatever? Some people are going to say, "What are you talking about, Inks? That's my favorite part of the game." I know. I get it. I do. But there's a good deal of players who are so thirsty for living story stuff that after you get that first chapter, it's not going to like you've been
it's going to
waiting-
awaken the
Right,
hunger
yeah.
kind of thing. I think at this part, people have been waiting for so long that they're kind of losing even the drive to want it at this point, and they're just kind of it's in the back of their mind, and it'll pop up when it gets announced or something. But as soon as that episode's out, we're gonna have like theories and what's gonna happen next and this kind of thing, and then it's like the mid-season breaks in season 2 and stuff like that. We were so used to getting content every 2 weeks. That's crazy to me right now because we've had 8 months of I don't know, it's insane. And And even though gap between episodes there, I was like, come on, I just want the next episode now. Why do I have to wait 2 weeks? So 2 to 3 months. I mean, I don't know. I'm just gonna be so hyped for it that it's gonna be difficult.
I still think we could see a drop July, August, another one in November, and then February, March for the next one. We'll be in the next year by then.
Yeah.
And this is, way forward thinking, but we know they're working on a new expansion. Another January, February announcement for the next expansion wouldn't necessarily surprise me.
No.
So I don't know. We'll see. Do we even know how many episodes are in Living Story 3? I don't think.
No.
I don't think the article said.
Mm-mm.
So like,
Maybe
how many episodes
4.
are there? 3, 4?
Yeah.
Which,
4 would make
if
sense,
there's
right?
4, then that actually sets up next year sort of nice, because we might, it's a big maybe still, but we might get another expansion announcement and Living Story will still be happening. One of the big problems with Heart of Thorns was we got an announcement in January, then there really wasn't
nothing
content for the rest of the year. There was the basic content, holidays and so forth, but there wasn't a lot of content. There was a big content drop before Heart of Thorns and then hot launched. And so if they have the Living Story rolling by then and there's 4 episodes spaced out every 2 to 3 months, this gives them content going into next year for when they announce an expansion, and then you're not in a story drought while that's waiting to happen. The downside to that is you would expect that Living Story 3 is going to end on a cliffhanger that sets up the next expansion, probably. Just a guess. And that means they can't really talk about too many story points for the Frozen Heart or COW, Cogs of War, whatever the next expansion is going to be called, right? Or the desert going down.
Well,
This
is what's interesting, right?
Sands of Time, SOT.
With the longer gap between episodes, we're obviously not going to get like an 8-episode season, like we've had before. That'd be insane. So 4 episodes, seems like, that seems reasonable and a decent amount of time, like an average amount of time for a season. But that's going to be so strange to think back on how much story they've got to deliver, and all the story, like all of the leads they have and the resolutions and the cliffhangers and the twists in 4 episodes. That's,
I know.
we're gonna log in and be
episodes.
excited for a new story just 4 times,
right?
Yeah.
But
in the next year, and it's gonna have all this stuff. That has to be a huge episode. And if it's gonna lead into a new expansion, think about how long and detailed like season 2 felt.
It did.
In 4 episodes, like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Right,
okay,
that
fine,
was,
it's gonna be spaced out loads, but it still means that they're gonna have to be a lot of content in those, and all the replayability, with achievements and stuff. Like it has to be massive. It really does. And I mean, last year we had announcement in January, and we had to wait till October before we got like that kind of a proper update. And the start of this year has kind of not been that much different. We kind of have been done with everything, unless you're actively raiding and stuff. It's been really empty this year, the same way last year was.
Unless
and so maybe
PvP, but
yeah, the seasons have been a good way to break that. But I just think like they've had a long time to work on this stuff. Sure, there's been people leaving, Colin going, and all this kind of stuff. Maybe there's been disruptions, but I think for the most part they've had a long time, and they could potentially kick it off with something massive, and the episodes could be pretty damn big if we're lucky.
Yeah.
Hope so.
Yeah. Well, I want to move on to a couple other things. We're actually at an hour, but I really want to talk about legendary armor. And we got to see the precursor armor. I know this is a quick way to... you do
crying.
these things. Oh, God.
Man.
Well.
So, I expected the cost thing. Everybody knows how I feel about the precursor scavenger hunts and how they're not really legendary and it's a gold sink. And I expected all that stuff. And it's there. Don't worry. We got you covered. But, we're seeing with this legendary armor now the same thing that happened to the Fractal legendary back piece. and that is that it's getting strung out across multiple pieces of content. Now, it started with raid content. You could only do so much in Wing 1 and Wing 2 and now Wing 3. And in Wing 3, you can finish Step 1. And then you can do Step 2, most of it. But then you got to wait for future content, which is probably Living Story 3 stuff, maybe. Who knows? Is there a 3 and a 4? I haven't followed it that closely. There is some positive news in that we know that we're going to be able to craft. It's not dependent on. So, for example, if you're like, oh, man, I really like the heavy armor, but I don't want my legendary armor to be heavy, you can pick the heavy version of Envoy, and when you go to make the legendary, you can actually make a different version or something. Because along the lines, you'll be able to change that up. And on top of that, there will be a recipe for you to make like if you had the money and resources, I guess. There will be some kind of recipe for you to make the different armors if you wanted to, which is nice to know, because we all figured, or a good deal of us figured, that you'd only be able to craft like one set. I can only have heavy. I can't have heavy, medium, and light, or whatever the case is. You can make all three. So that's a positive. The fact that you can make all three is a positive. The fact that you're not necessarily locked into your original choice is a positive. Because we don't know what the legendary armor looks like at the end. We only know what Envoy looks like, or experimental Envoy, or whatever. So they said it's 2 steps to get the final precursor, and then craft the legendary. All right, so still, but you can't complete step 2 yet. You have to wait for more content. So it's a little aggravating. It's a little frustrating. It feels like you're stringing me along for this longer journey and process.
Do you think we'll be able to finish it by the end of season 3?
I mean, I hope, but when is the end of season 3?
Right.
2017.
Yeah, exactly.
Are we gonna have to wait for the next raid? I mean, I don't think we're gonna have to wait for the next raid. I really do think it's a Living Story thing, but is it Living Story episode 1? Is it episode 2?
Right.
Is it episode 4? I mean, we don't know, and they're not telling us. And they're really not going to tell us, unfortunately, anytime soon. Hopefully, I'm wrong about that. Hopefully, I'm wrong. More information would be nice. It was nice that it was clarified, because there was a lot of guessing going on Reddit about what you need and what you have to do, and I won't even get into the materials and mats and all that kind of stuff, because that's all arbitrary. Some people don't care, some people are outraged, some people are whatever. So there's some positives. You can make all 3, which is nice. There's apparently 2 steps. When that second step is completed, I don't know. Who knows? Not now.
See, I want a preview of it, to be honest. Like,
I know.
No, like, 'cause someone pointed out on, I think it was on the forums or something the other day that I was reading, and it was like, it's kind of weird because no one starts making a legendary before they've seen it. You know, like with your weapons, you didn't just blindly go, I'm gonna get the axe, you know,
and not know what it looks
before
like
you see it. And so, like, and I mean, I know it's like an optional thing. You don't have to do it now. You know, you can wait until, you know, there's previews of it and stuff like that. But it's just, it seems strange, even with the new legendaries, you know, the short bow and Nevermore and Hope and Astralaria. Like, we still got a preview and a blog post showing them off before we started on the adventure kind of thing. I'm not too sure why they haven't shown us it yet, unless it's just not done.
I just don't think it's done.
And before legendary armor gets cancelled. No more legendaries, guys.
Everybody spends all these mats, and then we've decided not to finish legendary armor. No, I know a lot of people were discouraged by the previews of the precursor, because you can look at the precursor armor in the wardrobe.
Yeah, but it's the experimental stuff. I mean, have you looked at any of the experimental?
Yes, that's what I say. I said, look at the first step of Bifrost. It's literally a gnarled, chewed up steak. And then look at Bifrost. Like, any of them. I mean, look at Astralaria. It's like literally a bent axe, like, that looks like absolute crap, you know, and then it turns into Astralaria. I'm not saying that, you know, I mean, at least this precursor armor, we're not going to go through all this, through all the raids, and then you get, like, armor that looks like it's falling off you. I mean, but it looks so plain, and it looks so...
Yeah.
Just not impressive, but...
It kind of just looks like starting gear to me. Like, when I saw it, it kind of looked like someone had mixed and matched, like, like especially the light armor, just kind of looked like they'd taken a few Karma sets and the early crafted sets and just kind of mixed different pieces together and gone, okay, this is our precursor to legendary armor. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know, I'm looking forward. It's gonna be so strange though, because armor is such a your appearance is such a big thing in Guild Wars 2, right? Like it's the end game basically. And it's weird that there's gonna be this one set of armor that's like the best armor.
Well,
and it kind of has to look good. I mean, okay, you can skin it, but like you want to show it off.
I know. I don't want to get the legendary armor and then skin it. That's what makes me upset because I would, by default I would want heavy because my main is a guardian, but I hate the look of the heavy. I don't like the robotic, super heavy armor. I don't like that look. So I'm like, so I'm just not gonna get the heavy. Like, I'm just not gonna choose my main. Like, I'll probably choose medium because I actually like the medium one the best. And I have a druid that I take through raids as well, so she's kind of like my secondary main now. So I'm like, I guess she's getting the armor because I hate how the heavy one looks.
Maybe the legendary looks amazing.
That's true. That's true. The legendary version could look completely different, and I want it to be super shiny.
I'm really curious to see how it turns out. I remember them saying, I think it was just a comment somewhere from a dev that was, people talking about how flashy the legendary weapons are and rainbows and all this stuff, and they said like they were going to be keeping those kind of effects for just the weapons, and the armor would, I think they said something like it was going to be pretty normal looking, and then when you enter combat, I think then it would have some kind of effect. That's all I remember them saying, and that just sounds so interesting to me. Like, I don't know how that's going to work.
Exactly.
The other question is going to be, we're going to need a preview from ArenaNet, because even if you could see the legendary armor in the wardrobe, let's say, you wouldn't be able to see the action pose.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to see. You might not be able to see the effects really.
Yeah.
Or at least not fully appreciated, I guess. So.
Well, quite a few of the legendary weapons you can't see. Obviously, you can't see footfalls and stuff like that. But there's some auras that don't appear in the preview window and stuff like that. So yeah, I want to have maybe a stream like we had with the new legendary weapons, and a blog post or something.
And I imagine that will come eventually.
I just wish we kind of maybe got it before the process started.
Yeah.
To craft, but hey. Yeah, that's another thing Noxicon said. Maybe it's in there, but the people who are data mining aren't showing it to people, which is fair enough. I understand, but.
It's possible.
Might have to send that shaman a message.
Well, there's this other discussion too. I found this super entertaining on Reddit. People arguing and complaining about their Asura and female Char having breastplates boob plates when they don't have boobs. And Mike O'Brien went to the forums, Mo went to the forums and said, like, let us know what you guys want. We gave you the female version. The female version has boob plates, whatever he called them. Or you can have the male version where you don't have that, but then it's the male version and not the female version. And what players want is, no, I don't want either of those. I want a female version that doesn't have boob plates, which is extra work. How much work, I don't know. I'm not a designer or an artist or any of that kind of stuff, so I have no idea, how easy or not easy that is to implement. But
they said it in the AMA that creating armor sets was one of the most labor-intensive things that they do. So I can't even imagine the work that's going into these armor sets, the legendary armor. 6 boot plates.
Yeah. But, so there's that discussion that has been had as well.
There was a post on Reddit that was like, do you think when Mo became the head of a multi-million-dollar company, he would think he'd be arguing about
I'm sure that never crossed his mind.
But then the internet spoke, and it was so.
But it's weird.
But hey, he responded. He's like, let us know, guys, what you.
Yeah, which is good.
That was very awesome.
I mean, unfortunately, they're like, no, we want option C, and it's like, I don't know whether option C is viable or not.
Right. But that wasn't on the table, guys. Come on.
Well, the first thing that isn't on the table.
Boot plates. All right. Last thing I want to talk about is, well, because we gotta mention it. The privateer weapons. The new black. I know,
Here
I
we
know,
go.
but we
Here
have
we
to
go.
mention it.
I know. We do.
So, guys, the new set of Black Lion weapons is account bound. What does this mean?
Yep.
Is this a forecast for rage in the future?
Cash dollar. Cash dollar.
Does it mean money?
Well,
money,
we know-
money?
You know, it's not necessarily a forecast because they, somebody from ArenaNet, forgive me, I don't remember who, they went to the forums and they clarified a couple of things, that this is not going to be the norm going forward.
Oh,
This
did
is a
they?
special set.
Yeah, that's.
I'm not sure why it's
Look at that,
special,
dude.
but it's a
It's
special
not
set.
special, dude.
And the other thing is that this set will always be available. Well, not always, but it will be available for the foreseeable future. So it's not going to go away. It's not going to increase in ticket price. So when the new set comes out, it won't, like, this set will still be 1 ticket. But you cannot sell it on the trading post. You cannot trade it or send it. It is account bound when you get it. So there's that.
Okay, well, Blazing Hydra says in chat, they look cool, but I don't see how they're special. I think that comment was just damage control. It's exactly that. It's just, they just said that because it's for some kind of scapegoat, just something to say to stop people raging. Also, Krell Vanguard said in chat, or screamed in chat, all in caps, why didn't they just use the immortal skins?
I agree.
If they used immortal skins, cool. I understand, right? They're only part of bundles. This is a fair way to distribute them.
That would have been a good
whatever.
idea.
I
Absolutely.
totally agree with that.
I would have been
Yeah.
totally happy with that. But no, they throw out a new set that was clearly meant to be the new set, and then just made it account bound. And
Which,
I
like,
don't know
there's,
if it's
there's
just
nothing wrong with the set. It's like
it's not special.
not really
though.
for
It's not a
me.
themed
Yeah,
set.
right.
It's
It's
not.
just kind
It's
of-
nothing.
It's no different than
another
normal
steampunk
weapons.
type theme. Yeah.
If they released those, it could have easily just been a normal set
I mean,
of skins that
I
they
really
were
think
adding.
I think it was a
Harry
test.
Potter one.
It was a test.
Maybe make it
The
themed,
Harry
right?
Potter
Make it
one
like
was
a.
awesome. That was amazing. That was my favorite one.
If they had even done like a Black Lion themed, right, and it was all about like the kind of RNG Black Lion chest kind of magic stuff, and it was like themed to that, I would understand that too. But like, I think this is just, and it's really hard for me to not see this as just them kind of testing the waters. You know, oh, we'll
Yeah.
just throw this in there, and we'll say it's special, and you know, whatever, and then see how quickly the community chills out about it.
And see
And then,
how
we can do
sales.
it again. 2 months later, we can do another one.
Right.
And eventually, you know, we're going to alternate. Like, this month, this set is cool, and we can buy it, and this set we can't.
Yeah.
And it's just a way to maybe increase. And sure, you can use gold to buy keys, but it's just RNG, and it's just not that great a system, to be
Right.
honest.
I think the Immortal set would have been, if you
It would have
wanted
been
to do this, it
Great.
would have been a much
It would have
better
been
fit.
perfect.
Yes.
I don't think
Yes.
many, if any, would really be annoyed about it because they're already that kind of unobtainable unless you spend money.
They
you
are.
know, they're already at
There's
that
no way
status.
to get the whole set.
No.
It's
They're
impossible.
already at that.
So
they're
this would
already
have
at
been a
the whole
perfect.
set.
So-
This would have been a perfect
And
solution.
if anything, this would have fueled people too, because hey, we can actually maybe get the full set if
Right.
we're lucky, right?
Right.
Like if we get enough tickets, and it would have probably increased their sales way more than this.
I
stuff
think so.
has.
Yes, I think they
And
might
it-
even still do that because the immortal weapons. It's just kind of at this point, it's accepted.
Great
that-
idea,
Yeah.
guys.
I know. I don't know. That's
so
another idea. Krell is using previous sets that like aren't available anymore. You know, and are
Yeah, having them.
insane prices on the trading post. You know, have a way to get those. But they're account bound.
They do it with minis.
mm,
They do it with minis. You can get your South Sun Farron and go wild with Black Lion mini tickets.
Yeah.
How many
I
is
don't know,
he?
man.
Is he 3? 5? I don't know how many he is, but
How much is he on the trading post now?
South
don't
Sun
know.
Farron
he's dropped a little bit.
is
But
he's
not a-
around 60. I bought one a couple weeks ago.
I think that's cheaper than when I bought the one. I can't remember.
Yeah, it has gone down.
This and I don't know, this whole thing just kind of reeked of like shady business stuff, you know, like sinister comic book kind of companies. And I was just like, nah, I don't want to think this stuff about ArenaNet, but it did just feel like their response was like they knew it was coming and they already had an excuse to throw in there, and it just felt like they've done this once, so now they can just do it as much as they want. I can imagine the next few months we're gonna see another set come out that we can only get like this, and I don't know, it just feels a shame. At least put some effort in it to make it themed about something, but they seem just like another average Black Lion set to me, which just made it even more kind of shady. Cool, do this to ensure you get more profits, fine, but make it like the Immortal set, which already fits that kind of status.
That would have
and
been a
people
much
are fine
better
with.
introduction to the idea. Because
Yeah.
it's a brand new idea, and people would have been happy that there was a way to get the full Immortal set, rather than just rage about a random new set is like that, because then it raised all those questions. So, yeah.
But what about setting gliders on fire, charging 100 more gems?
Charging 100 more gems for a...
It was only available for 2 days or something as well.
2 days.
And 2
I love it.
days.
I was gonna get it for foes, and so I was farming gold, and as I was farming gold,
Aw.
it disappeared off the store. So I was
Aw.
like, all right, thanks, ArenaNet. I
I
log
totally
in to
missed-
actually play the game for
I
you know,
totally
a few
missed the
hours.
aviator glasses, by
Right.
the way. I was like, yeah, I'm probably going to pick these up, and I forgot about it and didn't buy them. So I missed the aviator glasses, and then the 2-day 500 gem glider that's on fire, which I own, by the way. I'm a sucker. I'm an idiot. I'm a hypocrite.
I resisted.
totally
It's
a
getting to the
hypocrite.
point with me where I'm like, it's just too many gliders. Well, I
Yeah.
love it. I love the choices, and I love the different gliders and the opportunity to get different gliders. But I was like, do I need the Phoenix glider? I don't know. Do I need? I don't know. I bought the flower one instantly. I'm like, am I gonna buy your Phoenix one instantly? If you make it pink, I'll
See,
buy
what
it
they
instantly.
did-
I'll tell you that right
What
now.
they did was
It's
they
not
took
pink.
the flowers and set them on fire,
yeah.
and then sold you the. it doesn't look anything like the flower one,
No.
but yeah.
I already have my dream glider, so I really don't need any other glider than the Love Struck glider, as I call it. So I really don't need any more gliders, but I'll
have a
continue to
couple.
give
I
ArenaNet
have-
money if they make pretty peachy gliders like the flowers.
I have
just had to buy the
that
flowers.
crystally one. I have the Halloween wings one. But I think I just used the beta gold. There's not been a glider that's really screamed like this should be your glider, for me. So I use the one I got for.
You need
the
one with like
pre-order,
skulls and darkness. And...
The soul one was
The soul
kind
one
of
was
close.
Yeah.
But it
I'm a little
wasn't.
sad.
It
that I
wasn't
don't have a soul
icy
one.
enough, and the Winter's
But I-
Day one was too cartoony. I need.
But I
like
wasn't
a
going to
dark-
pay 2K gems. I think they'll bring the soul one back for how much? How much is the other glider? Is that 500 as well? They'll probably bring it back for 500 at some point.
Trilidar.
separate.
I would buy
Yeah,
more
dude.
gliders if there was a use random glider checkbox. I would
That'd
be
actually,
pretty
good.
I
I
would
like
buy
that.
more gliders. Yes. Tell you that right now, ain't
What
it?
glider am I going to use this
Ooh,
time?
which
Ah,
one's it gonna be?
the basic one that came with the game.
I also want a
I got a
random
ring
mini
slide
pet.
now.
I actually more than
Yeah,
that, I
that'd
want
be
ArenaNet to
cool.
fix the bug that when your mini pet's
Yeah, I was just about to say
hidden,
that.
you have to go and physically check it again. Can you please fix that? Cause
I was just about to say that. Man, that's
it's
so
been
frustrating.
forever, and I'm really sick of my mini pets not being out.
I'm still waiting for gliders to be obtainable by playing the game. Some in-game reward.
Yeah,
Yes.
besides the, like,
Yeah, that is a must.
Yeah, exactly. The soul one should have been a raid reward. The exalted should have been like part of like some achievement in
Well,
Auric
okay,
Basin.
so that's the other thing that's kind of interesting. No raid title this time around.
Oh, really?
You had the Eternal,
Really?
and then there was
Yeah.
Slub. This time there's no raid title.
Maybe there's a secret you were trying to work out at the end of the raid, dude. Maybe that's where the title is.
That would be
Ooh.
kind of cool.
I bet Inks uses the ugly wool glider.
I have it. I don't use it. Fix Revenant
Well, he
first.
only has it because it was tied to a mini.
Also true. Which I love, by the way. I love the mini.
Yeah.
I love the mini combos. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to charge me more for a mini, let's combo it up.
Yo.
Add something else in there. I don't even care if it's ugly. Just add it in there so I can have something. So I feel like I'm getting something extra. Plus, I like doing those little. I really
I think
did
it's
like
neat.
doing the extra thing.
LFG was demanding titles to be shown for...
Ouch. Yeah, the
For
kind of
raid
gear
groups.
check stuff like for pug raids is crazy, man.
EU
Like,
can be brutal for the LFG. NA is not quite as brutal as EU when it comes to LFG.
legendary insights, man.
Yep.
Minimum 2k legendary insights. Otherwise, you can't do Veil Guardian with us. Otherwise,
Okay.
I really wish there was a title for completing all of the achievements in a raid. Other games, when you complete all the achievements, they give you a mount, or they give you a title and a mount, or something like that when you do all of the achievements. And I wish that Guild Wars 2 did something like that. It signifies like, oh, how'd you get that title? You know?
yeah. Dude, all of the clearing all of the raids should have given you like a white mantle glider or something.
Well, a lot of people when we were doing the raids and we were seeing the white mantle guys, not the basic foot soldiers, but the ones in the actual white mantle garb, they were like, man, I really want a white mantle armor.
Outfit
And it's like,
or something, yeah.
outfit coming soon.
Outfit, yeah.
700 gems. Don't worry, we
By the
got
way,
you
there hasn't
covered.
been an outfit for a while. Can we have some more outfits, please? Outfits. I know it's much
700
easier to make
gem
gliders. I like my outfits.
There's also not a Zera mini. Like, there's a Zera mini, the regular character, but there's not the final boss mini.
Her final form.
Comment to the gem store.
I sure hope not. Friggin'
that will
Sabbath
trigger
the
me so
gem
hard.
store.
That will make me go off. I'll be screaming at my monitor when that happens.
Rest
Oh
in
my
peace.
gosh.
Yeah. One thing, like, it's been kind of weird and exciting to see white mantle stuff in the open world in Guild Wars 2. It's been this thing, you know, like, all since Guild Wars 1, this kind of, I don't know, like, this, I guess it's, like, buried in nostalgia for a lot of people, you know, they're, like, the first main bad guys of all of the campaigns and stuff in Guild Wars 1, and now they're here doing stuff in Guild Wars 2. That's cool to me. And I don't know, even just doing the little bandit events and seeing them using white mantle weapons has just got me really excited. I mean, like a year ago, I wouldn't have expected to see this in Guild Wars 2, you know? Like, this is cool as hell.
What if the story goes, there's a new election, Jenna versus Cauticus, and we need to have buttons to vote for who we want. And Jenna is like, I'm gonna work with these sir to make waypointing cheaper, and Cauticus is like, Black Lion Key.
That'd be amazing.
And then Jenna will win.
No. Jenna's clearly too good, and she's just not likable in any way. I think everyone would vote for
Cheaper waypoints.
That's all it took. That's all it took. That marketing, though. Keel knows the marketing. Guys, we're gonna wrap up the live show here. Don't go anywhere if you're watching live on Twitch, because we're gonna come back. We're gonna chat, do some post-show stuff, interact a little bit more with chat, answer your questions. But if you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching, and thank you for all of your support during our little hiatus and all the messages asking, where's GuildGab, where's GuildGab? That was actually really nice to hear that you guys liked the show so much that you were wondering, where the heck is it, where it happened? So, not going to be a weekly thing anymore. We're going to kind of see, you know, if ArenaNet continues to put out stuff, we'll continue to do shows. We want a lot of news and a lot of meat to talk about, so ArenaNet, give us more. Give us more.
Please.
Yes.
So check down in the description and follow us. Please. Follow us in all the places, guys, for more Guild Wars 2 action. And we'll see you next time. Take care. Goodbye.
Bye. Bye. Sorry.